Hi, I'm Ed Everswindell. I'm the director of this wonderful epic, and what you're seeing now are some graphics flashing up on screen, and it's the start of Infestation. Now, if you're listening to this DVD, I presume you've bought the film, and if so, you're either interested in low-budget filmmaking and how we put this film together, or you've made a horrible mistake and you're going to return the DVD tomorrow and get your money back. Either way, it doesn't bother me because we made a film and we're very happy with with the fact that we made it, if not entirely with the finished product itself. So what we're seeing here, it's a good opportunity to mention two people straight away. One is this title sequence, which is one of the elements of the film I'm very, very happy with. I really, really love my title sequences, I have to say. As all the people who tried to talk me out of having a title sequence on this film are well aware of. This is a really, really good example of what I like. It's a guy called Neil Radcliffe, I think, who's put this together. I've never met him. He's a friend of Stuart's, the producers, but I think he's done a fantastic job here in really sort of giving a good atmosphere and summing up what the film's going to be all about. And of course the other element here is the music, which is another strong element in the film, I think, but more on that later. So here are all the poor souls who were involved in the film. There's Neil's title coming up now. Yeah, all these people watching it now, whether or not they regret being involved. There's Sam, the dubbing mixer. Whether or not they regret being involved now is I don't know, up to them, I suppose. And any second now we're going to get into the film proper. Oh, first we're going to have these sort of graphics flashing on screen explaining what's happened, sort of history of the world. We toyed with lots of different ideas here about how to do this, how to tell a story. I think, if I'm right, in early drafts of the script that Stuart and I did, we had all sorts of stuff, and big scenes, people clamouring for, here we are, the title's coming up now, people clamouring over cars, and well, I think we also, in one version, saw the holiday camp, which you see later on, before the virus struck. But all of these, they were just very, very ambitious, and in the end we just stuck to it. If it's good enough for Blade Runner, it's good enough for us. Put some titles on screen. Here's the first of our effect shots, and that one was a real hassle to do because we had to kind of explain in one shot that we were underground and we sort of started up on the ceiling and panned down. Not sure whether it works, but that was our best shot. This is Peter Jones here, who I used to work with on the factory line in Rill, refurbishing mobile phones. He was on one side of me, Paul was on the other, talking about making films. So in the end, he ended up being in the film, poor old Pete. And there we go. We're now actually in one of the venting chambers in Mersey Tunnel. And this is a device that I nicked from, well, it's a combination, this scene, of a nick from Brazil and Speed. So Speed, because someone gets killed in sort of lift shaft, I think, early on in that film. And the other one is Brazil sort of setting up the world through a TV broadcast, which seemed like a sort of fairly simple, effective way of setting it up. Here comes the lovely Laura. Interestingly, her character is called Lex, L-E-X, but because of that intro, a lot of people think that her character is called Legs. But there you go. So here we've got this intro is a real jumble now of different locations, different actors, people doubling for each other, because it was we couldn't get one location for the whole film that would be all the different locations in our underground subtropolis. So it's a real mixture of various different places and intercutting between the two. This is interesting here. This is a scene that was added in editing, which is why, unfortunately, Travis, who becomes important later on, and Loki don't interact early on in the film, which would have been far, far better. It's just an answer phone message that he's leaving for Loki that kind of sets him up as a character and being important. What's interesting there is Loki's reactions, because the scene was added later on and we'd have taken down the set of Loki's cockpit. all his reactions to that are indeed the this scene which you're watching now, played backwards, which is kind of interesting. So Ross looks the same backwards and forwards. Interesting tip there for Ross if he's ever interested in a career in backwards acting. So here we are now in we're underneath Real Sun Centre now. Interesting location. There's Jane walking by, and again here we are back in Mersey Tunnel with Matt Routledge, who's was also sort of fight choreographer on this film. He's got his own film out at the moment. I'll do a plug for it, Fist of Justice. So if you're interested in martial arts films, he's done one. I think it was originally Mersey Cop or something. I've seen bits of it anyway. Back again now under the swimming pool in the Sun Centre in Rill, and Sue looking a bit odd here. Sue Riley, our lead actress, because she's wearing a wig, which was a really bad idea. It was my idea. I take full responsibility for it. But originally she had that wig on because she had a fight scene in this intro in which we doubled her with someone else, and it seemed like a good way in the of matching her with a double, because a double had very, very long red hair. But in the end the fight scene got cut out, so this appalling wig that poor Sue has to wear was for nothing. But don't worry, later on after the intro she gets her real hair back and she looks much better. So we're about to go into now our first big action scene of the film. What can I say about this? Some people really like it. I can't say that I'm totally happy with it, because I'm not. One of the big problems I have with this whole action sequence now is the fact that because we were in the Mersey Tunnel, who'd very, very kindly let us film there, we weren't allowed to shoot any blood around, or and it was very, very difficult to get any equipment in there. We didn't have any crash mats, so really, the fight scene and the gunfight's very, very bloodless, and it all had to be kind of done with editing and various things. We couldn't really get the lighting we wanted in there, but it was sort of that versus the great location. So we took the great location. I'm sure we do it all over again. Guy getting kicked in the face has got a good film that as well. The Displaced, that's what it's called. It's a good film as well. It's got Ian McKellen in it. So here we are, lots of kicking and punching and fighting, and this is another sort of vignette here. The sort of people like that bit where he shoots him about a gazillion times in the chest. That's always gets a big laugh. Well, I don't know. Sometimes it gets a laugh. Sometimes it gets a kind of a bit of a tut. I always think that's the point at which you know whether someone's going to like the film or not. If they laugh at that point, you think, yeah, there's a chance they're going to like this film. If they go, then you think, nope, lost you. There's Chris Walker getting kicked in the head. I worked with him as well in Mill. All these people who I used to work with who didn't believe I was ever going to make a film, and now they're in it getting kicked in the head. Quite appropriate, really. So here's Laura in the bejesus out of poor old Ross. Again, no crash mats in any of this, so when people are hitting the ground, they're really having to hit the ground and do all these flip-ups and everything. It was very, very difficult for the actors involved. But yeah, it all we didn't have enough time, and all this is very, very bitty. I think we kind of got away with it and made it work. I hope we did. A bit of a gunfight going on here. Again, here's sort of Matt's premature death, or you can get shot in the back. We're going to refilm that because that actually led on into a much bigger fight scene between Matt and Sue, which got cut out, and I'll tell you why in a bit. This again is Mersey Tunnel. Nice little sort of bit of running and chasing down here. Various extras who've been in it before, disguised in silly hats and stuff covering their faces. Well, the reason we cut the Matt fight and Sue fight out was that it originally happened, I think, during or after, I can't remember, I'm the editor as well, you think I'd remember these things, but it was either during or after the chase that you're about to see. And basically, once you get into this chase bit here, you don't really want to cut away from it. However good the fight is, you want to get into the chase. And the thing was, this intro was becoming so long that it was actually stopping being exciting and actually starting to be tedious. Right, here we are coming into our first big special effects sequence here, courtesy of Andrew Whitehurst, Visual Effects Coordinator Extraordinaire. And we're going to be intercutting between the chase and this set, which has got some of the extras in it. Some really good effect shots, I think, in amongst the chase. I particularly like that point of view one that just came up, that sort of shows real speed of them whipping through the city. Interestingly, Andrew and I storyboarded and did animatics of the sequence based on the car chase in Ronin, to kind of like, you know, with that pull out you've just seen. They're all shots that actually came from the car chase in Ronin. But I think that's one of the reasons why the chase kind of, although they're flying, seems to be happening on one kind of level. There's not much up and down. It all seems to be sort of side to side, as if they're in cars. Maybe we should have looked at some other films as well, I don't know. This whole sequence was a real challenge to edit, you know, keeping the intensity up is between the various locations that you're cutting between is very, very difficult. You've got, you know, basically Ross Everson is sitting in a box there with some flashing bike lights behind him, and we've got some effect shots which are good but kind of dead until you put sound and music on and stuff, and you know, them standing around in a set talking to each other, and all these things individually aren't very interesting or exciting, but you know, when you put them together as a whole, hopefully it makes a scene that's exciting. Some good old bashing going on here, and Laura and Ross acting their little socks off here, sitting in their cardboard boxes pretending to fly around with me shaking the camera around madly. Interestingly enough, there we've got our first dubbed character, I think, who's Andrew Morris in the control room. I'm sure we're going to be discussing people being dubbed later on in this commentary, so I'll come back to the subject of dubbing and why and how we did it. But the chase is still continuing. The end of this chase, there was some debate as to what and how things happened here. Maybe it's still not clear enough that she crashes into a tanker, and because her air brakes fail, and you know, causes the death of a load of people, and he's subsequently blamed. Here we go. Oh, poor Laura. I kept telling her that she ejected at the last moment and she can come back for the sequel, but you know, she was sad to have blown up. So this is really the event that sets up the Loki character, the fact that he feels upset and at the death of all these people and kind of responsible, and we find out later on that he has actually sort of been blamed for it, or the public perception of it is that he's to blame. And here's our little on-screen graphics, telling us it's 6 months later. Thank you very much, on-screen graphics, otherwise we would have been completely lost. That's actually one of the stills that Andrew sent me, showing the city with a bit of lens flare moving around on it. Not actually a proper effect shot. Here we are. This is Derek's garage, and the first of our sets that we built in there. Kindly Derek Reese let us, who's a friend of Paul's, let us build these sets in his garage. So really it is just a normal little garage, and we lifted it up, and Paul and Stuart and friends went in there and put some boards up, painted them, what have you. I quite like this. I have to say, this is probably one of my favourite sets that we built. Sort of seeing the Sash character at home. And again, this whole scene is always tricky to do something like this with. It's a lot of exposition, setting up the story all in one big chunk, with Freeman sort of giving her the mission. we tried to make it more interesting by having him be a hologram rather than her just sort of visiting him in his office. One of the interesting byproducts of that is the fact that Sue and Malcolm never actually met each other, never appear in a scene together, and although they do in the finished film, I don't think they've ever met to this day. So that's worth thinking about. I kind of like the detail in the background now, the little light and the computer on the desk. A word on the dubbing here. Again, I suppose it's a good time to mention that this isn't Sue's real voice. This is somebody dubbing her over. One of the reasons there's quite a few characters in the film that were eventually dubbed, and one of the reasons for this was we have an American sales agent, and they were kind of keen that it play in America as well, and the Americans were having real trouble with the northern accents. I'd had this grand idea that we'd sort of have Ken Loach meets Star Wars, but apparently there are no northerners in the future, unfortunately. The Americans don't have a problem with southerners, it's just the northerners. So most of the poor northerners in the film are dubbed by Americans, or at one point a Cockney, I think. But there you go. So here we go. We're about to leave Malcolm's garage in a minute. Sorry, Derek's garage. That's Malcolm doing speaking. This is the point at which Sash realises that she's going to go on this mission, and she's only going to go. She's going to get to take Loki with her. And the next scene that we get, the infamous bar scene. This wasn't a scene that was in the original script at all. In sort of development of the film, originally Sash was far more the main character of the film, and Loki, I mean, he was still a big part, but he really, now he's become the star of the film. And in taking out some of the stuff that we saw with Sash later on, there used to be a sort of flashback to her. I think there was a subplot with it. She used to go to that holiday camp when she was a little girl, and she had flashbacks there, and that was one of the reasons why she knew her way around and all that kind of thing. With that coming out and making Loki the main character, so I think we tested it or something like that, and people were responding to his character far more. We had to have sort of the moment where he chooses, or we find out what's happened to him, and so Ross came up with this whole idea here of this scene in the bar, which serves two purposes. One, it's sort of a good, I suppose you could say, fun scene where you see somebody get the cack beaten out of them by these two shady looking characters, one of which is the producer of the film, Stuart, who's the guy there. He looks like he's come out of a sort of 1980s Karate Kid film with his little Cobra t-shirt on. That's Stuart, our producer, and weirdly the other guy, I dubbed his voice, so presently our star's kind of being beaten up by the producer and the director of the film, which is, I think, quite appropriate. But this is kind of, again, it's one of these scenes where if people are finding this funny, then they're kind of into the film, and if they're kind of like going, oh goodness, oh no, then that they're probably not gonna get the gist of the film. I'm suffering. I don't know why. I kind of like seeing Ross beaten up. Sorry, Ross. Sorry, Loki. He's the character. I wouldn't like to see Ross beaten up. That would just be awful. Some interesting shots here. I think some of those hits there, they seem quite kind of brutal, quite full on. So I'm quite pleased that those seem quite realistic, because of course we weren't really hitting Ross. Now he's getting kicked on the floor. I find that funny. I think one of the downsides, though, if you excuse the pun, of this scene, the fact that it's so underlit. You know, I think the camera was really struggling at this point, and you know, the whole look of the film is sort of becoming slightly obscure at this point. You know, we wanted to go for a very, very dark look, and Stuart and I had learned early on in our student projects that it wasn't a good idea to go painting your set silver, because then the light bounced off it and people could see how crap it was. So we tended, in this film, we just painted everything black, so you know, you could just see little bits of detail here and there. But I just think maybe we we kind of overdid it with the giant black room with the black bar and the black things in the black bar. You know, it's just all maybe a bit too dark. I think again in this scene, Ross is dubbing himself, because we had a faulty microphone, and it just everybody ended. We had so many sound problems on the film. I think there's so much looping and dubbing and stuff going on in it. It's incredible. And I think all credit to Sam, who did our sound mix, to try and tie it all together, because it was a bit of a mishmash, quite frankly. So here we are. This is the whole kind of moment where Loki chooses to go on the mission. He's being convinced by Sash, and he only really goes along because he thinks it's a suicide mission, because he thinks he's going to die, because he feels he has nothing left to live for. And of course, those characters in these kind of films are always the ones that make it till the end. It's the ones that get out their wallet and start showing you pictures of their baby and, you know, their new wife, and you know they'll be dead in the next reel. So weirdly, we kind of know at this point that he's gonna make it to the end. Good old Loki.
But if we can pull it off,
that extra in the background's holding his beer can upside down. I mean, you know, that's the kind of stupidity that you're faced with when you're making one of these low-budget films. You know, you think you're getting a good shot, you're concentrating on the foreground performances. You know, everything's a big struggle, and then you've got an idiot in the background who's holding his beer can upside down.
Sounds like a suicide mission.
What do you say to these extras? You know, remember to hold your beer cans up the right way. You know, you shouldn't really have to say that, should you? But there you go. I'm just being bitter. Okay, right, this is a very, very interesting scene, because as I said earlier, Malcolm and Sue were never together. So what we actually did here was we had to double. I could get Ross and Malcolm together and Sue and Ross together, but I couldn't get all three of them together at the same point. So we had to either double Sue or Malcolm in all these shots on 2 different days, and then cut them together to make it look like they were in the same place. But unfortunately, I didn't actually have anyone suitable to double Sue at the time, so I got my friend Double L to to double at one point, and if there's a shot coming up any second now, where you're going to see, here we are, the shot here, where you'll see that Sue suddenly has put on a bit of weight and grown a beard. So not very convincing doubling. Right, here we are now getting into our new sort of people in the film, the team members, played by, well, we'll introduce them all bit by bit, but I suppose the biggest one here is going to be Paul, who you see in there now, who's also our executive producer, Pete Farrer, who you may remember, or have probably forgotten, from the TV show Survivor, Paveen Hussain, and also my brother William, who plays a kind of neat, geeky, sort of nerdy guy, quite appropriately, I think, although he'll deny that. So what we're about to see now, we're going to get into the second of our 3 big effect sequences in the film, and this is a nice little set that was built by Paul.
Glad you could make it.
Should be a fun
intercut
trip.
again with our previous set.
1 minute
So
remaining, sir.
reusing all these things. Interestingly, just pointing these things out as we go along, that there's a blonde girl with sort of dreadlocks in the control room, who we originally had kind of, that was Freeman's daughter. You did actually get to see her, Kerry Freeman.
Due to the fact that you're his team. And he
but
has
it just
no
became
knowledge
too
of the
when you
report's Topside.
pointed it out in the film, it just became too confusing, and people weren't getting it and getting sucked out of the film. So here you are, you got all team members meeting each other again. I think yes, Pete is dubbed, Paveen's dubbed. So 50% of our team are dubbed with American accents or Cockney accents, whatever, so that Americans can understand them. We're establishing here that Freeman knows there's something wrong with the launch, but he's going to launch anyway because he's a baddie.
I was born there.
Although,
Yeah, you got that look.
again, in the original
Weather
script,
beaten.
Freeman was not a
Careful
baddie.
you
We kind of
man.
made him a baddie in the edit, but more on that later.
Shut up, Cole. Keep playing with your equipment.
Didn't have Will there for the day,
Hey, pilot,
so
what'd you
I
find?
think that's someone
Nothing,
doubling
Lee.
for Will. That's why he's got his mask on.
To be honest, kind of lost taste for the whole
And
flying thing.
setting up again a bit
find
of
it, Sace.
Mad
What's that
Dog
on your
Maddox, yeah.
Ah,
That's subtle, isn't it?
signifies my
Just in
gentleman's
case you
nature.
didn't know, guys, this guy's a nutter. You know, some some really subtle exposition there. That's setting up the fact that Maddox and Loki are not going to get along in this film.
Keep your mouth tightly shut.
Uh,
Able to bite your tongue off.
So here we are about to launch.
You online?
About to launch our team
Launch on my command.
up to the
Luck,
surface. This was a scene again in the original script. We sort of underwrote a bit. We kind of went, oh, they're getting something, and they go to the surface, and then got on with the film. And then I sort of, me and my infinite wisdom, I was like, no, we could have a sort of Apollo
Launch.
13 style launch sequence here, and have them blasted through the planet's surface. And you know, the thing with the doors opening now is a sort of
away safely.
bit of an attempt to get some suspense out of the scene.
Timing is correct.
These wonderful
Vent one,
props
opening
and
now.
stuff that they've got going on. Stuck on his head, a pair of headphones.
3, 2, 1.
So some nice effect shots. I think early on, Andrew kind of said, look, we aren't going to be able to do this sort of 100% photorealistic because we just haven't got the time and the computer processing power. You know, it's going to take real time to get it sort of Hollywood standard. So he said, well, let's go for a more
I'm fully aware
sort
of
of
the
stylized look, and he kind of developed this kind of sort of slightly greenish, I suppose it's kind of like the Matrix or something, kind of
Opening now.
stylized comic booky look to the effects, which, you know, obviously they're not photorealistic in these scenes, but
How long do
they
I
look
have?
kind of cool.
Engine 4 not responding.
Unless, of course, you're one of the people on IMDb who are continually slagging off the special effects. But, you know, so again, we're kind of establishing, oh, it's the door from Raiders closing slowly here. You know, are they going to get there? Bit of an editing trick. Oh, the door's closing again. You know, it's rubbish, really. But that's the kind of thing you can get away with in films. It's great. Atmospheric lighting here. It's, you know, it was green, now it's red. Red could mean danger. Are they in danger? I don't know. Well, you know, it's a zombie film called Infestation. Of course they're in danger. I always like that shot of, you know, Loki putting his head up looking over at Sash, but again, you know, this whole sequence now really... Oh, I forgot, this is a great location now. This is Anglesey. This is Paris Mountain in Anglesey. And yes, we have put some effects on it, but it is very red. It does look like a sort of moon surface, and it's got very, very red rock in it. So we didn't have to do that much to it to get it to look that red. I think we matched them in the foreground a bit. Made it look a bit more sort of like it was the sun was going down and, you know, it was early evening. But it's a great location. I think it's been used a couple of times. Someone telling me it was used for Mortal Kombat 2 or something like that, and I think it's been used on Doctor Who, and I think it's going to be used again in a couple more films in the future. It's a great location. But yeah, these whole scenes coming up now, I think, really show up a bit of a problem with the costume department. I've got no one to blame there because I was kind of the costume department for these for this team here, and so I can slag myself off and say that I think these costumes are pretty shit. I think, you know, the old green jackets and stuff are good, but then the helmets we got away with, but these masks and stuff, you know, they're not. It's, for God's sakes, the planet's covered in a virus. You aren't going to be walking around in a flipping tiny little thing like that, are you? You're going to have a full body thing on. But, you know, at the point at which the film was started, we did not have enough money to afford a full body thing. So, as evidenced here now by the fact that he's about to inject him with a sort of, I don't know, it's got that from a plumbing shop, I think. Don't know what it is. Or it's a hose lock or something like that. Something for your garden hose. So, you know, it's real DIY sci-fi at this point, which I think is a bit of a problem because there's some things you can get away with. I think we do get away with an awful lot in this film, but I think these crappy costumes, we don't get away with. I think it's always difficult until you're actually making the film to realise what you're going to get away with and what you're not going to get away with, and I think that's why there's a tendency to kind of overdo it with props and stuff in a lot of sci-fi movies and stuff you don't see on screen, because you think they're not sure what's going to show up, but we didn't really have that luxury. What's great here is, of course, that everyone thinks Paul's about to die. They think, oh, you know, that's it. He's gone off for a tinkle. And there's a funny noise, and he's going to be the first one to cop it. And again, around the campfire, he goes, "Oh, I'm going to get some firewood." And you can hear people go, "Oh, aye, he's for it. He's for it. He's dead." But of course, he lives till the end, which is a mistake. I think, God, you know, we should have, you know, Paul would have had a great death scene. Should have pulled him apart, pulled his legs off, pulled his head off.
He's coming.
Pulled his stomach out. You know, would have been a longer film. But I love this bit here with Cole injecting Maddox and then running away like a little girl, like the little wimp that he is, making that noise, and Paul shouting after him. Oh, here we are onto the infamous. I keep saying infamous. Every scene in this film's infamous. Campfire scene, which.
What was that?
Is, let's face it, a bunch of people sat around a light bulb while we flap some ribbons in front of it to kind of make a fire effect, and then the fire effects sort of dubbed on afterwards.
I thought nothing was supposed to be alive up here.
Again, with the real problem with the campfire scene, and of course, when you're doing a low-budget film, you're adding scenes, you're editing stuff out, you're changing stuff around all the time. That's just the nature of low-budget filmmaking.
Bits and pieces.
You don't realise what a scene like this does to the pace of the film. I mean, it was one of the scenes we had to have in, because it kind of explained the backstory and the fact that, you know, the idea that the zombies had been created by an experiment that had been done to kind of cure the virus. We thought kind of that was an interesting spin on the whole idea that
that was a theory.
No, Sash.
The virus wasn't the thing that was turning people into zombies. It was actually the attempt to return people to the planet's surface that had turned everyone back into a zombie.
Meaning
you know, the vaccine that they created.
The central nervous system survived the onslaught.
But in terms of pacing, this
didn't die.
scene slows the film down, and I think the whole.
The government
it's starting to falter a bit now in terms of pacing, and people are at that point. You're into your second act. They want a bit of action, and I think, you know, we really stretch it out, and then the payoff is really poor. Which I'll talk more about that when we get to it. But yeah, I think I did cut this scene down quite a bit, but you know, there's only so much you can cut down before it becomes a sort of
Stuff to humans.
incoherent
The
mess,
government may
or
be shitty, but they wouldn't stoop
just
so
doesn't
low.
make sense.
That's a breach of basic human
And
rights.
although we did manage to cut some
Even
stuff
terrorists
out,
have rights.
So come
the
on, next
majority of
page.
this scene
What
had
happened
to
the
stay.
people?
I don't think there's
I
anything
gather
wrong
the
with
government left them to live in
the
excruciating
the
existence.
writing or the
No
performances in it.
No water.
Just in retrospect, you think, could have found a more interesting way of doing that. But that's it. You live and learn,
They're
don't
out
you?
there.
What seemed like a good idea on paper.
Rotting.
And here, of course, is that sound effect's never loud enough. That didn't scare anyone. You could show that to your granny. She wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Cole tells it better than me.
She wouldn't go,
anyway.
whoo. And I think that
Alright,
really
everybody.
cripples
Let's
that
rest up.
scene, because it's kind of like, instead
Tomorrow
of a
we find our
jump at the
team.
end, people kind of think like, you tried to scare us with your silly log on the fire thing, but it didn't work. And now, that's when people start to turn against you in the film. I'm not paranoid, they are actually out to get me. So here we are, here's our first look now at what was a great location, which was Tower Beach in Prestatyn. It had been hit by a hurricane, I think. It was about 20 years
What the hell
ago,
was this place?
and
Some sort of resort.
had just sort of been left,
The last resort.
shut down. It was
Alert,
no
everyone.
Pontins
The
or
last recorded
Butlins or
position
something
of the
like that,
missing team. Keep your eyes
and
peeled. Remember,
it just sort of been
safety
left, and
climax.
just this
These are our own people
incredible,
looking for.
sprawling
Let's go.
location, totally empty, and I thought really, really beautiful in its own weird kind of way. And I was kind of, before we started filming, I was obsessed with we've got to do that, we've got to do that. I was going for these recce's, and I saw that big
Got it
tower
again?
in the middle of the
Escape's clean.
tower of Tower
Signals came
Beach,
from somewhere.
and I
Find
thought,
them,
we've
brainiac.
got to blow that
Give it a
up.
Knock it
Got to
off.
blow that up for the big finale. Weirdly, they were demolishing this. They ended up demolishing the whole site the week after we
Hold on,
filmed,
stop.
which meant we couldn't go back and do any reshoots,
getting
which we
signals.
desperately needed to
Double
do, because the
Wait, I
location
can't
wasn't
get
there
fixed
anymore.
on
And they told me they were
Thanks,
going
Mark
to demolish
Kenny.
this tower, and I thought, we can use that for the climax of the film, them demolishing the tower. But in the end, they just sort of pulled it down rather pathetically. I was like, can't use that. You don't want to buy an action movie and see a tower being sort of pulled down slowly and bit by bit by a bulldozer, do you? You want it
One of the
to
other
go
teams
up in a great big
practiced
ball of
China.
flame, which is
Cole,
what we
I'm
had to
on
do, of
video
course.
playback on that now. A squad
This scene
individual
coming up
record
now
What happened
is
might be on that
one of those
tape.
scenes I thought was going to work a
Video
lot
video
better
playback, Cole.
than it actually did, which is the idea of they find a tape of the previous team and
Right, I've got it.
watch their footage back to see what's happened to them, and we don't quite see what's happened, but we know it's not something good.
Oh, get that thing out of my face, you wanker.
And it was never really as sort of suspenseful or as exciting, and it's certainly not gory enough really to be totally alarming. But yeah, so maybe I'm being too hard on it. Some interesting people here forming this team. Both our producers make a cameo appearance. Stuart and Shan, they're both shouting at Rob, who's sort of playing Slater, who's a staple of my films. Interestingly enough, again, Travis cut into this scene, so he wasn't actually there when we originally filmed it. We sort of had to go back and get a similar location and edit him in so that you would understand that he was in that original team that went up. Of course, now I've said that, you're looking at it going, oh yeah, I could tell. Look, it's so a different location, but no one ever spots it unless I say so. Near. So you just sort of hear all our zombies, or I think we call them mutants. I think there was a big thing at the time about whether or not to call them zombies, and weirdly, when we started making this film back in 2000, we had a huge debate about whether or not they were going to run. They were like, oh, well, let's have running zombies, and people were like, oh, you can't have running zombies. And then, of course, about a year, 2 years later, you had 28 Days Later, which was all a big debate about whether or not you could have running zombies. We've got sort of like slightly quicker than normal zombies. We were chicken. We kind of we hit the middle ground. I play the cameraman in this scene, Carpenter, named after, of course, one of the best directors of all time. It's a bit of a joke, really, because I was the cameraman all the way through, so it was only that they acknowledged me seeing that scene and spoke to the camera. I was a character, but you don't actually see me.
Mission aborted.
We don't know they're dead. We haven't seen any bodies.
This again is a very, very tricky scene to do. It's all sort of big argument. Some people want to go, some people want to stay, and it's really tricky to have all these, you know, performances hitting the right note and being convincing about whether or not they're going to stay. So at this point, we had the bright idea of having an acid rainstorm that would kind of like interrupt them, and then they'd have to stay because the sort of decision's been made to leave. But unfortunately, we did have, believe it or not, something in. A lot of people go, well, why did they run out of the big building that was nice and safe and go in the little building that doesn't look so safe? And they ask in that exact voice as well. And we did have something in about him saying the structure wasn't sound and it was creaking and all this kind of stuff, and this one had a tin roof and all that kind of stuff, and then it was all boring. Basically cut it all out and just had them running around going, "Rah, get in here, get in here." So we did think about that, the fact that they needed to go somewhere undercover, but in the end we just cut it all out and had a lot of shouting. Whether or not that was the best idea,
Okay,
I'll
we'll
let
hold
you
up
be
here
the
for
judge of
tonight.
that.
Get some sleep. Loki, you take
That's a
first
bit of a
watch.
nothing
I'll cover you
scene,
at 2.
unfortunately. I think I'm being quite down on the film here, but I think a lot of problems with the film occur around this portion of the film, where it's slowed down too much. The pace is off. Right at the point at which you want it to get going.
Beautiful, isn't it?
And you want things to start happening.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, partner.
Here's this
Some
touching scene of
It's your big
them
day
looking up
tomorrow.
at the stars.
Don't
I
know.
wanted to make it clear that they were outside and
Be okay.
that the characters were outside for the first time, and they were looking at the view and looking at the stars. But it's very difficult to do stuff like that without it being ultra cheese, and I think a lot of people find these sort of bits, ooh, look at the stars, ultra corny.
Beautiful, aren't they?
I kind of
Never
like
really
it.
thought about them before.
Originally there was a big moon there, but it
Yeah,
was just
beautiful,
like you
but-
expecting E.T. to fly past on his
But this
bike or
minute, they
something.
don't mean a
Didn't
thing.
really work.
What you thinking?
Again,
What's on your
this
mind?
scene here,
Now, right now, I'm thinking.
should it be there? Should it not be there?
I'm
Should it
thinking
be
of something
shorter?
that's mission
I don't know.
stumps worth in my
It's been a while
soul.
since I've watched this, so I've got, I'm being
And it isn't
the
just Maddox.
cameraman, the editor, the director, and sort of one of the writers originally. You do tend to be very, very hard on your own work, and this film's certainly getting a bashing today. Right, this is one of those weird scenes. I'm going to say something nice now. This is one of the weird scenes which is actually a lot better than I could have ever hoped for, because I think when we were shooting this, Pete had to go. It was his last day with us, and we'd have to do his death scene quick and kill him off, otherwise he would just disappear for the rest of the film. Time was ticking down, and this was a real rush job to get this done, and I just went out and filmed these shots very quickly. I think everyone was having lunch or something like that. So, very, very small crew, just me and Pete and probably a few other people. Probably Stuart was there, rattling things in the background and opening doors and stuff. I thought, well, oh dear, we got something, but that's a real disappointment. But what sells it here at the end is that I think we actually get quite a good jump moment in, quite a good scare with the hand coming down. I was pleased with that, because they're difficult moments to do, and of course you get both his hands coming down, so you know he's not being lifted up by his arms and hanging on to something, that he has actually been grabbed by his head, which was a rig that was, I think, Paul kind of devised. If I'm right, I may be wrong, someone else did it. If someone else did it, I'm very, very sorry, but I think Paul did it. And yeah, a good sort of shock noise there to make you jump, and I think that worked.
Well, what have we got the
Difficult
others
to say.
well, then?
You mean he's dead? It's not
Another
dead.
one of these
Maybe he's found the others.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
exposition
But what are we gonna do?
scenes,
We
people
find Spelder, we find a
standing around
dissension to the
debating
C-7
stuff.
we get out of
Obviously,
here.
Hey, sweetie.
you can't have people be friends, because that's just boring.
Oh,
You know, if
things
they were all
looking
good
so
mates
good.
You
doing
got a
this,
problem with me, pilot?
what's the
Problem
point
with
in
you?
that? You want a bit
How could I have a
of
problem with you?
One more step, mate.
dispute, and of course
You're gonna be in a
the
world
dispute
of
we
pain,
wanted was
Pick a foot.
once
Come on,
Spelder's
man.
taken out of the
Come on,
picture,
it's
that
been
he's
hell
kind of
day.
in
Listen,
charge
If it wasn't for you, we'd be long
and
gone now.
kind of competent,
Hang on,
that
I've got a really well-located
who's
track.
going
Move
to take
Spelder!
charge now? And it's, you know, it should be Sash taking charge,
Right, get your
but obviously
kit. We're going
Maddox
after
is a
him.
bit of an idiot and he wants to take charge, and you know, hopefully the audience is thinking, no, we don't want the idiot to take charge because he'll get everyone into trouble. Nice crane shot here. Nothing more to say about that other than really nice crane shot. Good crane move. Like that.
There's 4.
Like it a lot.
No, there's 5 signals at least.
Quite a lot cut out of that
Heading
sequence
Straight
there,
has some
I
kind
seem
of
to remember.
circular formation.
Right, we're going into a whole
You take
sequence
points.
here now,
I'm not going in there.
Yes, you are.
which
There's
I
more than one
really,
signal. It's not
really
right. It's probably found the others.
dislike.
It's the only reason he'd leave us.
Sash is right, don't go in.
I'm going in.
I
So are
promise
you.
Why am
that
I
I will
going in?
say some good
Protect me.
stuff later
We
on
can't protect you in
about this
there.
film.
Cole,
I
give it
promise.
with me, yeah?
But I
Anything,
think
pussy.
if I had to pick on anything in the film that I really am very, very unhappy with, it would be this whole sequence. And the reason is, there isn't, if you took the sequence on its own, there isn't anything really too wrong with it. But there's been such a big build-up to this first appearance of the zombies.
Come on.
And, you know, I think we did a half-decent job
We
of
cover
that
each other.
build-up.
Be ready for anything.
You know, with, you know, it's coming shortly, with, you know, the bleeping machinery and saying they're getting closer and all that kind of stuff, and you do think, oh, where are the zombies? And the original idea was, I think, that the zombies were going to kind of sort of burst through the floor and start, you know, sucking people down, and they were going to grab Paveen's character and pull her through the floor, and that would be kind of a, you know, and shooting through the floor and all that kind of stuff, and that would make quite a cool
There's
little
at least
action
6
sequence.
signals.
But
Spelder must
we
have found the
couldn't
whole
do
team.
that, unfortunately, due to, you know, various budget restrictions. So what you get is a sort of crappy coming round the corner shot, but more on that later. I think, you know, again, all this stuff with them
I can't see anybody.
sneaking around,
sure
that's
you're
great,
in
you
that
know, it's
big
building
way?
suspense and, you know,
Right
another
about here.
another little shock moment there.
Oh,
That
you
one
need
never
some
works.
help.
No, that never gets anyone. Again, little kids watch that and laugh. That didn't scare me. Yeah, but the hand coming down got you, didn't it? Again, I think we could have probably done this scene in a more interesting location. This is again still in Tower Beach, and I think he's with the scout huts or something like that. But they're just a bit dull, aren't they? Really? Probably could have found a more interesting place to do it in. But you know, we'd already used them for. We shot this in sort of near the end of the shoot, and we didn't have enough time to shoot it in. Yada yada yada.
Who is it?
So we ended up doing it here.
Let's get you up. Come on.
We need to find out what
Right.
happened.
So you know, now we're getting into what should be
Sash, Loki.
a kick-ass action scene with, you know,
I'm getting a read on the scope
meeting
again.
the zombies for the first time, having a big shootout, and
Boosting it.
Come on,
it's
boost
a
it
real
faster.
damp squib.
6 signals, I'm not
You know,
sure.
for my
Sure,
money,
where?
I'm
They're right behind it.
having difficulty watching it
what's the
now.
reading?
I may not watch it. I may turn away. I may cry.
Come on, you bastards!
Stay central.
Yeah, the other thing about this scene was we did have quite a few zombies
Come on.
to come round the corner and look menacing, but they were all kids. No, sorry kids, I had to cut you out. Only had a few adult ones. So you sort of see two of them walk around the corner. She's shouting, shooting. Oh, there's two of them again. Wow, two zombies. I'm really scared. And she's grabbed by the same two zombies from behind. Didn't see that coming. Right. Well, what I'm really pleased with here is Paveen's death scene. This always gets cut out when they show it on TV, which really annoys me because it took us so long to shoot. But I wanted to do a real old school kind of Day of the Dead. Someone having a guts pull. There's a hand getting pulled off, and there we go. Some nice blood shooting out and guts being pulled out. I wanted more. I regret not putting more of that in now. I might just put an extra on the DVD where it's just called More Gore, and you just see more of Paveen's stomach getting pulled out. But all credit there to Amber, Wendy and Kathy, who all the way through the film done an incredible job with virtually no money on the makeup effects throughout the film. And so many people have commented on how good the makeup was
The hell happened back there?
on the zombies. And they really didn't have much to work with at all. They did an absolutely fantastic job.
Don't tell me you're
Can't speak highly enough of them.
Don't touch me.
Quite like this scene, have to say. One of those scenes where I remember in the writing phase, myself and Stuart were kind of like stuck with how we were going to. We thought, oh, we've got to establish Svelda dying. We've got to have them finding out the antennas come off the hatch. They've got to be discussing the fact they've just been attacked by zombies. How many scenes is going to take? It's really going to slow the film down. So I think in the end, Stuart just said, quite rightly, let's all have it happen at the same time. So it's all just a massive event. Like all the things hit at once, and it's all just one thing that the characters have to deal with. Rather than a little scene with the antennas come off and he's died and this has happened. And I think it plays much better that way. There's old Svelda kicking in the bucket. Well, the human Pete. Obviously zombie Pete comes back later on.
No way. You're crazy.
Some great helmet wobbling there from Paul.
Listen to me, Maddox.
Wobbling his helmet for all he's worth.
If we don't keep moving,
great look there from Sue. Nice and dramatic.
Yeah, you're right.
I like the way that the Cole characters kind of volunteered before I'll stay before we even finished speaking.
Watch you guys through the Navi map. Make sure you don't cover the same area.
Of course, we know what will happen when he stays with a dead body.
If we don't find this hatch in the next 4 hours,
come back to life.
We'll be dead from the virus anyway.
There's Sue looking off into the distance. Right, here we are into this next sequence now, which sort of is a big wedge of the film. This whole kind of sequence from now up until the point where
They're scared.
Cole gets shot in the head. That was all one reel, and it was a real.
Sobriety's a bitch.
It was very, very difficult one to put together.
Sash is the least of our worries. If we don't get back soon, we're going to
This
die
location
anyway.
here, they're not in Tower Beach. This was a scene we added later, and as I said before, we couldn't do any reshoots, which we desperately wanted to do, to go back and get pickups and reshoots. We couldn't. The location had gone, so we found somewhere kind of similar in Southport, which stood in for some of the backgrounds. Back in Tower Beach now, though. I was really fond of all these, these big open spaces and broken windows and stuff. This was really difficult, this whole sequence here, which was it's basically a bunch of people looking for a hole in the ground. Oh, nice speed ramp there. Again, done on a crane and then sped up. Yeah, it's all these people in there, and they're just looking for a hatch in the ground. So of course you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't at this point, because if they take ages to find the hatch, everyone's gone to sleep, and bored. But if they find the hatch too quick, then it seems like, oh, that wasn't much hassle. So you've got to kind of have tried to make this look sort of montagey. So you got the idea that that time had passed and they were looking at all these different locations, talking to each other. But still, people complain. Oh, we found the hatch too quick. Why were they making a fuss when they trying to find the hatch? He found the hatch really, really quickly.
It's quiet. Over.
And they use that exact voice as well.
How are things?
No sign of it. Over.
Cole?
So they're all talking to each other now on their little 99p.
Yeah, very funny, Cole.
I don't know what they were, from some pound shop, speaking to each other. I don't know, lady shaves or something like that. This was the part there. You just see a sign in the distance there, just on its side. That was actually going to trigger a bit of a flashback in the Sash character, and that was where her whole scene, when she flashes back and realises she used to go there as a kid and all that kind of nonsense. That's where that went. But in the end, we ended up cutting all that out and enlarging Loki's character there. That shot, obviously, a reference to one of my favourite films of all time. If you need telling, then you're not a film fan, so I'm not going to tell you what film it's from. And look, here we go. He's found the hatch. Is it too quick? Did it take too long? Do you care? I don't know. It's actually a big cooker on its side, if you really want to know. Which you'll be jumping into later. Here we are, Death of Cole. Again, I'm really sorry here that I didn't do a big graphic death scene with Cole getting all his guts ripped out and his arms ripped off and stuff. That would have been much cooler. But people were saying, no, less is more. Let's just have him scream. But no, I like to see people all chopped up. But that's just me. I think there's a... Oh, here we are. Great shot coming up here. Credit goes to Stu here for his lighting here. I was like, oh, we don't need this shot of him going down a corridor. Come on, let's just cut that out. And he was like, no, I'm going to do something special. And then he lit it all and smoked it, and they came back, and of course it looked great. So well done, Stu, for that bit. Right, we're into a very interesting section of the film now, which was not in the original script. This is wasn't in the original shoot of the film, wasn't even in the original edit of the film, and when we screened the film for the first time, wasn't even in there. But when we screened the film, all cut together for the first time for an audience, we realised several things. One of which was there wasn't really enough of a kind of sort of plot and revelation in the second act. It wasn't really enough for them to achieve. It was just them trying to sort of escape. And I personally felt there wasn't enough action in it. And you kind of wanted a bit of a twist, you wanted a bit of a reveal. Again, just watching the film, these were things you felt were missing from it. So I said to the team, right, we've got two choices. We can either stick with this, or we can get involved in reshooting a large segment of the film.
I'd say shooting one of the guys.
Luckily, they decided to get. Although there was a lot of protest, obviously, they saw sense and decided to do these reshoots, which I think are the best thing in the film. For several reasons. One, I think the performances in these scenes are really good. I was really happy with Travis. I think he does a great job, and I think
how many in your team?
Ross is very good in these scenes as well. And the other thing is, really happy with the action scene in this, which it's my favourite bit of the film, and I think it's probably the best bit of the film, really. So what we have here is a sort of subplot that we edited in, sort of.
It was a black book mission.
after the
A
fact.
day out, they said.
So we'd already
Go
gone
to the
back and we'd
surface,
cut in
collect a
the
few
Travis
samples whole,
character
and whilst
to the
you're up there,
intro
try and blow
and
up a
into
few
the
buildings with
video
detonating.
flashback, so that you'd recognise him when he turned up at this
Slater
point.
always was a nosy bastard. He looked too close
Because
to the
originally what
explosives.
happened was
They were thinly
the
disguised C-beams.
Cole died and zombie Svelda came back for him, and then Sue came back. We had the Sue and Paul fight, and then Ross turned up right at the end, shot Cole. Of course, when Sash was kind of the main character of the film, that made sense. That was acceptable. But in making Loki the main character of the film, you just thought, where the hell's the main character while all this is going on? We didn't even cut away to him. So I thought, well, there's a possibility here when he's absent from screen to kind of invent a bit of a subplot to go in here, which is what we did. And I think it ended up being one of the best things in the film.
What do you mean it wasn't them?
And what I wanted to do, I had this great idea where I was going to intercut his story
I don't know. I
and
can't
her
explain it any better.
stalking zombie Svelda, which were originally two separate
Their
things
eyes.
in the rewrite. But when it got to the edit, I said, oh, we could actually intercut these two things, him telling the story and her, and it would look more like they were filmed at the same time. Hellish difficult though. It really, really was to get the two things running. And of course, how long do you cut away from one? When do you come back to the other? You know, real pacing issues there. And you know, it still doesn't feel right totally, but it's as good, I think, as you could get it with the footage we had.
The broad detail and some
So
stuff
all
I
this
don't understand
here,
is on the computer. The really juicy bits I can't
I
get
think
to.
what you're about to see here now, bizarrely, is a reshoot for the reshoot. Because again, this is sounding terrible, isn't it? But we shot, after shooting these new scenes with them kind of finding all out about the virus and doing, you know, having a bit more exposition about that and how it worked. I said what I really wanted to see here was a sort of video of the original experiment. So what you get here is
it running?
this segment here with a scientist sort of doing a bit of a video journal diary about the experiment and their reaction shots. They don't really comment on this video, you'll notice, because their reaction shots aren't to it. We didn't know at the point we were filming it that we were going to put this in. But you see the power of editing. You put these two things together and it kind of makes sense. Not brilliantly, but it makes sense. So,
the virus has mutated.
all I seem to remember about this sequence though is that
The irony is not lost.
there's a really rubbish scream at the end. It wasn't the actress's fault. I don't think it's her scream. I think it's
Whoever's behind this cock-up wanted it covered up
we
fast.
didn't have anyone who could do
That's why
really,
they
really
sent
good
you.
screams on this
So
film.
why send a rescue team?
PR.
That was a
were
real
never meant to make
drawback
it back.
to a horror
They
film.
sent us a pot.
Next film I'll make, I'm going to audition just screamers. It's going to come and get in the room. Stand over there, scream. Right, you're hired. No, you can't scream. Right, I'll take you now.
Really want this
Not only on the
mission
film.
buried.
Same person that sent us up here.
So them talking whilst that is going on, that's intercut from them looking at something else. But I thought that kind of, again, we're making the point here now that Freeman's a bad guy, and that he sort of set them up and put them, they're a decoy or a PR exercise or whatever it is, and it's the whole thing's a bit of a cover-up, and he's going to take the information and I don't know, broadcast it and show that Freeman's a baddie.
Freeman away for a long time.
But again, the whole development of Freeman being the bad guy was something that came about after the fact. Again, that we just felt that I think it's Malcolm's performance as well. Even when he's being a goodie, people just think he's a baddie.
Sounds like school's out.
He's a bit Alan Rickman in that sense, I think. So what we're getting into now is just first of all we're going to see the start of the fight, aren't we, between Sash and Maddox, which is people kind of go, you know, I don't know what people think about this. You know, I thought it was quite good that she whooped his ass, but you know, people just don't find it believable. But you know, he does win the fight. He does end up choking her. So come on, give us some credit.
Does sound crazy.
People don't like it when she kicks him in the balls. They go, ooh. Like, you know, that's a low blow. Oh, here we go. We've got the gratuitous tooling up scene.
Sorry,
which,
guys.
of course, every action film needs. What these scenes do is they just kind of say, don't worry folks, a big action scene is coming. And one of the things I said was that, you know, I'm not having them have a big bag of guns and having this tooling up scene. They've got to use all the guns, because you hate it in films where they show you a big load of stuff and you think, oh, that looks good, and then they don't use it, any of it. You just think, oh, you tease. So, you know, all of those guns in these little bags, they all end up getting used. This little scene here was something we were really against the clock filming this scene, and it, probably, well, yeah, definitely I could have done it a lot better, but I'm glad we did it. I think Stuart talked me into filming this scene. I was saying, oh no, let's not bother filming this bit. We've done all the action scene, but you know, he said, no, this would be a good scene. I remember us kind of like chuckling to each other when we came up with it in the writing process. This whole idea of the creaky board and the alarm waking them all up. And also, I think it's kind of nice to have that suspense scene lead into an action scene. So your action scenes that will pay off for your suspense.
Whatever you do.
Yeah, don't make a sound, and bleep bleep bleep, and that's it. They all wake up, and here we are into a nice big action scene. This is probably, well, this is certainly my favourite action scene for the whole film. I think it's because it's got a lot of stuff in it that I like. It's a lot more kind of visceral. You know, we could shoot blood all over the place in this location, which was weirdly, it was in a block of flats, and we had all these. We had a load of extras, loads of people playing as zombies, more people than we'd had before, and the makeup people there, and some great makeup, and you know, I got to do the old hands around the door zombie shot as well, which I was pleased with. I actually managed to get that into the film, and I think this brief scene here gives you an idea of how I would have liked the whole film to be, but there you go, kind of everything. I like this little stunt here with Loki jumping across the room. That was good fun to put together with a bit of a trampette. I think we did that. And there's Travis blowing holes in zombies. People like this bit as well, I think, when the door suddenly opens and knocks him across the room. A bit of comedy there. And then into this sort of stuff, which is great. The old Chow Yun Fat two-pistol thing. Running up the wall. People are like, how did he do that? How did he do that? But you notice he did have him put his arm on one of the zombies to steady himself. So it isn't total fantasy. It is possible. Dropping a gun and pulling the people like that, pulling the shotgun out. So making use of all these extras by shooting them all and having blood spray everywhere. This little sort of hand-to-hand fight scene bit. It's quite good. Good old headbutt there. I think that gets cut out on TV as well. Some good squelchy punches here with people getting smacked around. And ooh, good old neck break there. I'm just getting absorbed into it now. I quite like all this. But yeah, I mean, this was again an example of we had more time on this, we'd had a bit more money in the budget, and you know, we were able to light things a bit better. I think we were using a better camera at this point, so that's why I'm happy with those bits anyway. There's the good old whack to the groin there. Action scene continuing. Wanted this bit to be all sort of a bit hard-boiled, with the two heroes sort of going through the location, wiping out the baddies. I couldn't do it all in one shot though, like hard-boiled, unfortunately. Here's poor Sue getting choked, and this was a case as well of how long could we choke Sash's character. Ooh, camera tripod in the bottom left-hand corner there. weirdly, this again is a reshoot. The close-up of Travis there was shot in Stu's kitchen, I think, because originally when we shot it on location, people thought that he was sort of betraying him there, and they were glad when Travis died. And I was like, oh no, they have to. He's supposed to be doing something heroic. So we have to go back and do some really, really on-the-nose dialogue, which was sort of like,
Which one of you wankers
save yourself or something like that, he says. He gets a good death though. He went for it. Good old Simon. Having his guts ripped out, bit of blood spraying everywhere. Doesn't go down without a fight there. Yeah. This is really just a lot of spraying blood. I'd like to have seen more guts here. I'm sounding like a right sicko now, but I would like to have seen more guts. Anyway, a nice little stunt coming up here. Done totally for real. That was just Ross saying, hey, I was saying, oh, you've got to get up in the roof there somehow. And he went, oh, I could do this, and he just sort of ran up the wall and did that, and I was like, yep, okay, that's in the film then. Oh, there's the cheesy feet dangling shot, which is obligatory for any choking scene. Any film you've ever seen ever. Didn't Will back from the dead. And here's the... Now what's really annoying there are all the people who think that that's a homage to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Now do you believe
I'm
me?
like, what? It's Nikita. Come on, get it right.
Let's go home.
You know, I don't mind being accused of ripping stuff off, but at least get the right rip-offs. It's Nikita I'm ripping off. I quite like that shot as well, where they come around the corner there and
Get what's left of us back home.
slow-mo.
Sash.
We can't do that.
What?
We're back now to scenes I really dislike, I'm afraid. So I have to listen to me moan for a bit now. One of the problems again was this was on. I remember it very clearly the second day of filming, and one of the problems that occurs when you shoot things out of sequence is that you're not really sure of the level of intensity of what's gone before, and they're really not, you know, I mean that whole scene we just seen was added in later, so they're not really, they don't seem to have been through that for my liking, and they're just sort of, you know, they've just encountered all those zombie hordes, and now they're just kind of sort of wandering around the street, just dumpty-dum, walking about. You know, they should be hiding, you know, scared, cackless, behind a rock somewhere. Here's the bizarrely overly complicated way of blowing up the holiday camp thing, which is one of those things that made sense when we originally wrote it, but subsequently became so kind of you know, complicated that I'm not even sure I understand how they're going to blow everything up. Something to do with overloading their umbrella holders, I don't know.
It's time.
I sort of lots of shots here of things speeding up and slowing down, because I think as an editor I was very aware that people, you know, we want to get to the climax now. We want to get there. We kind of feel that, you know, wrap it up now, guys, and all this sort of stuff. Although it was necessary, you had to have it in there, otherwise it would just be random nonsense. Really felt like we had to speed it up and get the film moving quickly. The shot of all the little zombies waking up.
Once you find a ship,
Here we are again. It's Loki about to go off on his on his mission.
Look, it's not a factor.
Coast clear.
Go.
And containing the classic putting sunglasses on shot, which we'll talk about when it pops up.
What if he doesn't make it?
He will. He has to.
You must trust this guy.
I kind of like that shot of Sue, but people say it's looking
more
up her
than
nose,
trust.
so, you know, I do tend to put the camera down quite low and look at people's noses, but I quite like the shot. This is the pigeon shot. Of course, if you've been paying attention earlier on in the film, you will know that some of the animals are alive on the surface, including birds, because people always go, how come the pigeon was alive? I thought everything on the surface was meant to be dead. That was good. Pigeons came out right on cue. here we're about to enter a very, very bizarre segment of the film, which begins with this this shot of sunglasses going on, and then a big crane shot. This was a great thing to do. It wasn't a proper film crane, it was actually a motorway crane that Paul organised for us, and I think on the second day of filming I said, oh, this location's so great, so big, it would be great if we had a massive crane, you know, we could get some aerial shots of the whole place. And he was like, right, okay, yeah, I'll sort that. And I think we got it for the price of a bottle of wine or something like that. The driver came on the way to another job, and we got the 3 crane shots done for the film. Yeah, we're about to enter a very, very bizarre segment of the film here, which is a sort of Loki versus the zombies scene, but the tone of it is so out of whack with the rest of the film, basically. And I think, again, this was towards the end of the shoot, and I remember it being, again, this was not in the original script. I mean, if you listen to this, you must think, now, well, hang on a second, how long was this original script? Was it like, you know, a side of A4? But I think it was something like he ran into zombies and ran away or something like that, and it developed into this sort of almost, well, it is quite comical scene of him beating up all of the zombies, which Ross and I, huge Sam Raimi sort of Army of Darkness fans, and we kind of thought, hey, we'll do something like that where it's, you know, I think at that point we weren't sure how the tone of the film was going to come out, and we'd had a very, very long, hard day, and you know, I think people wanted to shoot a kind of fun, actiony scene. Later, I cut the scene right down, but I did try and cut the whole scene out of the film, because I just thought, oh, this doesn't go anymore. In fact, I think yes, I'm right. And Neil Marshall, who did Dog Soldier and The Descent, when he saw this, he was like, oof, what's that scene in the film for? You got to cut that out. And at that point, I think it was too late. We'd already locked it. But I was like, yeah, I've tried to, but there's a huge continuity error. You know, he had his sunglasses on beforehand, and I'd have to lose that crane shot. And he had a big gun. Where's his big gun go? In retrospect, I would probably just cut it out and have the continuity error. Although, having said that, I showed it recently to a group of film students, and about half of them said that was their favourite bit of the film. And I said, oh, I tried to cut that, I was going to cut that out, and they're like, no, don't cut that out, it's the best bit of the film. So, what the hell do I know? Here goes Loki into his cooker, and we're back now. We're right underneath the Mersey Tunnel now. That location is in the that's actually underneath the driving part of the tunnel. Oh, here we go. We're into a countdown now. So we know why the countdown starts at 10 minutes and so many seconds. I don't know. Just to give you some idea of how much left of the film there is, I suppose. That's a great shot there, because we only had about 4 zombies in that shot, and we had to kind of replicate them on the computer to make it look like they were surrounded. But until we had that shot in, she looked out the window at the 4 people and said, damn, we're surrounded. And it always got a really big laugh. This was 2 people. Again, dangerous here. We've got a scene of our lead character just sort of walking around in the dark. That's the climax of the film. You know, difficult editorially to sort of say, get on with it. We want to get to some action.
Maybe they're saying grace.
And so I think there's probably, in fact, there was definitely more of this. I'd wanted to have him meet some zombies down there and have a bit of a fight down there rather than him just walking around. But he was getting the zombie to the location. The location was in Liverpool. He had to drive him there. He had to feed him. Blah de blah de blah. We didn't have the money at the end of the day. The clock is ticking, and here we are into the gratuitous shooting zombie scene. Now here goes Paul and Sue shooting the zombies, who are, God knows what they're wearing. So we sort of had a bag of rags that we used to dress them in old clothes and stuff, but they really, in some shots, they really are quite poor, those costumes. of course, there's a couple of cases of because people were doubling over and over again for themselves. So there's a couple of cases here where Paul shoots himself quite amusingly. This is Loki, still wandering around in the dark, but we're he's about to find the ship. I think my piece of direction here to Ross was, imagine you've just seen the golden idol in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So if you were curious to know what Ross would look like as Indiana Jones, that's what. He's just seen the golden idol. Okay, we are now back in Derek's garage, the other set we built in there. This great bit with him in the cockpit there. I didn't know that was going to work, so I only did the one shot, and then I saw it and I was like, damn, that looks really good. Are there any more shots we can have of him just in the cockpit? But no. All this sort of like booting up and switching things on is all sort of done with sound and light and everything, and the joystick there shot separately. I don't think that's not Ross's hand actually, I think it's my brother's hand shot on a different day. Here we go. You'll notice the same extras being shot over and over again here. Unfortunately running out of extras to shoot. Oof, great little shot there of somebody falling over. I think they hurt themselves doing that shot. Shot of Paul reloading, because people always have this big thing about, oh, we never reload your gun. Keep just shooting and shooting without reloading. Oh, this is the whole crux, obviously, of the film. Is he going to overcome his demons and fly his little ship out of there? And of course we've got the flashback sound in there to tell you that he is. And then of course that look, I think there were lines and stuff there of him saying, talking to himself, but it can be a bit hokey, can't it? So I think in the end he just did it with that look, which I think is pretty good. So now we're into the final big effects sequence in the film. So all credit again to Andrew Whitehurst for some. I think these are, for my money, best. That one especially, nice shot, best effect shots in the film. The little thing flying, mainly because they have to match with a real background, which is even more difficult. Let's take out shooting zombies with a big minigun. Bit of a rip of the Matrix there. Again, this scene shot very, very quickly. Didn't get the coverage I wanted on this at all. It was the whole thing was just shot in an afternoon. I think it was like 3 hours at the most. We had to shoot the whole climax because we were getting kicked out the location. We were on our final day, and I'd wanted to shoot it over the weekend, over the Saturday and Sunday, and we overrun on some other scenes, and it overran, and then I ended up having to shoot the whole thing in 3 hours. So kind of disappointed by this whole ending, I have to say. Bit of a cameo from Ross there as a zombie. You do get to blow stuff up there, nicely, so I'm pleased about. Andrew actually wrote a piece of software especially for this film, which would give us big sort of impressive sort of black oily explosions rather than sort of the normal ethereal CG explosions here. That's Ross again as a zombie. What's he doing? Kooky little fellow. Trying to eat Paul. Getting smacked in the chops. Kind of like that bit in the background where it flies around, sort of giving a sense of things happening on multi-layers. That's it, shoot us again. And here we are now, leading up to the climax of our film. That was a hell of a shot to do. They're looking at the thing and the ship flies past. Andrew did not like doing that. Used some really naughty words, all directed at me. The zombies using hand railings there, making sure that they're safe and sound, coming up the stairs. Filing neatly. Bit of a continuity error there with his arm. That shot was meant to be flipped in post-production and we totally forgot. And here's this thing with a flare gun. Right, I was adamant that we have to have this tower blow up at the end of the film, and I thought, let's have them jump in onto the wing of an aircraft as it blows up. No point, even in a low-budget film, of setting your sights too low. So they're sort of jumping off there, and there's the CG versions of them, and now probably there we are. That's my favourite shot of the whole film. The whole thing blowing up. I think that's great. Strap themselves in,
I knew you could do it. Now get us out of here.
and the audience at this point is going, "What the heck? Maddox survived." Oh, that's very satisfying as well. Ooh, bit of a Return of the Jedi shot there, film fans. But no, yeah, you get a big, everything's obliterated, it's all gone. Big mushroom cloud, freeze frame, and fade out. What's interesting here is this final scene. We get this incoming call again. It's from this point on that the shots of Ross aren't actually done in the cockpit set. They're actually done, I think, in Stuart's living room or something like that. Ross was about to go to New Zealand for a year. We were about to lose him. We had to shoot this this scene very, very quickly. I think he's pissed out of his mind actually shooting this scene, this whole thing. So I sent them the script, and we'd shot the Malcolm stuff. Sent them the script down. For reasons best known to them, they decided to make up their own lines, which didn't match with what Malcolm's saying. So I was then stuck with 2 scenes with 2 actors who I couldn't get back together again, saying different things at each other. So I had to kind of to lose quite a lot of both of those scenes, which means we have rather an abrupt end to our film, which is now finished. So here we are. Here are all the poor souls that were involved in the film, that took 4 years to complete. No surprise after all that I've said about filming and refilming and what have you. Good opportunity as we finish here to talk a little bit about the music of the film. I was very, very happy with, and I think added a real element to the whole film. I don't think necessarily just the themes, but also the sort of the more atmospheric stuff that maybe you don't notice, that's just sort of wibbling noises and deep sort of drones and stuff like that. I think it all adds up to a fantastic atmosphere, and like I said, I think I've done a lot of moaning here about the film, which is I think that's fair enough. You know, I directed it, I can moan about it, but there's a lot of stuff in here that I like, and I think just to round off the whole commentary, I would like to thank everybody who's been involved in the making of this film. Hopefully you're not too ashamed to be part of it, but a lot of people gave up their time. I think at best people got paid expenses just to turn up, get in makeup, you know, dress up in uncomfortable costumes, get shot with fake blood, so on and so forth, and they all turned up and did a fantastic job. And you know, if I've forgotten to mention anybody in this commentary, I'll just sort of get myself out of jail free by saying thanks to everyone. You did an absolutely amazing job, and filmmaking is a collaborative process, and myself and Stuart and Ross and Paul and Sean could not have done it without you. So thanks from all of us on behalf of them, and thank you to you, the viewer, who if you're watching this, you bought our DVD and you're watching our handiwork. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this commentary, and hopefully that provides a bit of an insight into how we did it, how the magic was created. So thanks.